Gang, what is up? It's another episode of Hockey Town Hangout with the fellas from Red Wings Diehards. The boys are playing good hockey, a bit of a stinker against San Jose, but a heck of a response tonight as the road trip kicked off down in Sunrise. Forrest and I are going to break down all the action right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Hockey Town Hangout.
Brings it in, scores! Oh, his first NHL goal is a beauty!
The sickest Detroit Red Wings podcast. It's gonna be sick.
So, Forrest did a great job covering for me last week. Several games have taken place since the last episode. A win against Chicago, 5-3. A win against the Kraken, 6-2. That stinker against the Sharks. We seem to see ghosts when we play San Jose lately. 6-3 loss there. And then a great response tonight in Florida, a 5-2 win. The Red Wings are 8-2, 16 out of 20 points in the first 10 games of the Todd McLellan era. Forrest, let's start off with the Chicago and Seattle games. Let's talk about those, and then we'll get into the bad game against San Jose and then the response tonight in Florida. So the two games against the Blackhawks, we outshot them significantly. And then the game against the Kraken, that was that electric first period. What did you think of those two games?
Two games where we took control of the game and really dominated. Excited to see that. They've definitely played that way with McLellan at the helm here over the last little bit. Power play continues to be on a heater. I believe there was a really nice Raymond goal from DeBrincat on the power play in that game. And in the third period, they also had to overcome an onslaught from Chicago. I think they brought it to within one at the end of the game. So it was definitely something where they had to close it out. It wasn't just going to be given to them. So good takeaways from that Blackhawks game against the Kraken. I mean, 6-2, really jumping all over them with 4 goals in the first period. That's the kind of stuff the dreams are made of, really. Second time they've done that in as many weeks, which you love to see. And, really didn't have to worry about it being up 6-0 halfway through the second bit. Has been awesome. He has the Seattle game alone, he played super well and probably deserved. Absolutely wild how well he played in shutting them down in the third period. So really the recent theme for me is just finishing strong and our goalie being our best player.
I think what I really liked from the two games, like you mentioned, the Blackhawks game, it did get a little close there at the end of the third period. We were up 4-1 in that game. They brought it to 4-3 with a few minutes left before Marco Kasper buried his empty net goal. And then being able to have a quick turnaround and play the Kraken, and you build up a big lead in that game too, and you don't let them claw away, get back at it. You go up 4-0 in the first period, and then you go to the dressing room between the second and the third, and it's a 6-1 game at that point. So that was really nice to see them kind of learn from the letting off the gas in the game prior. And obviously those two wins extended the winning streak to 7 games, which was the Red Wings' longest in about 12 years since 2012. And then we played a familiar opponent in the San Jose Sharks, and we weren't able to slay those demons, unfortunately. In that game, Todd McLellan decided to spot start Husso in that game. I didn't love that decision. I can see why it'd be a good spot for the guy to come back in, but I guess just for me, you're in the middle of a big win streak, and bringing a guy in for his first action in a month, regardless of who it is, I don't know if that was the right time, but he did what he did, and it is what it is. But those two goals that they gave up in the first period, they went to the breakdown 2-0. That point shot from Jan Ruda, that can't go in. You got to be able to stick that aside or glove that, right? And then giving up that shorthanded goal where all the guys are paying attention to, I think it was William Eklund or whoever had that puck and then slid it over. And then he was able to make a nice move and beat Husso. Again, thought Husso maybe should have had that one, but and then the second period kind of uneventful in the Sharks game. We're able to win that period 1-0 to bring the game to 2-1. And then the third period was just a gong show. Like the Red Wings would get to within one and then we'd give one up. And then they got to within one again off that sick play from Larkin off the draw over to Raymond, kind of a bang, bang, slam dunk play right off the draw. The guys looked juiced after that. And then what do you know, lo and behold, a minute later, they do it again, give up a goal right away. And you could just tell at that point it was over. Like the life had been sucked out of the arena, the bench, everywhere. So that was a really frustrating loss. To me, with the way last year ended, losing out on the playoffs on a tiebreaker, only needing one more point to get in. A lot of people talked about that San Jose game from last year. You're up 4-0. You lose in overtime 6-5. You would think that this game would have been circled with a red marker on the calendar and maybe a little more urgency from the guys. But you knew the winning streak wasn't going to stay alive forever, right? So just a frustrating loss. But what did you think of that one there, Forrest?
I think I heard like Darren McCarty on Woodward Sports say that the San Jose game was a must win, and I mean, honestly, dude, every game's a must. The Wings had like a chance of making the playoffs, and that's mostly because their schedule is really tough in the second half. Like they play a lot of teams that are above 500 and teams in playoff spots, and I'm pretty sure that's a big reason why they're only sitting at a 3% playoff chance, even though they're basically knocking on the door at this point, 2 points out of a playoff spot. So the Sharks game, I just think that it was like the come back down to earth moment. Like as you mentioned, you knew they weren't going to be on that heater forever. They weren't going to not lose for the rest of the season. It was going to happen. You mentioned the goal on the penalty kill that we gave up the shorthanded goal that we gave up. That really was a backbreaker to me. And I mean, I know the guys out there had been on the ice for a while, but Casper lollygagging and truly, truly giving up on the play, you can't blame the goalie for that. Like somebody walked in from the circles and nobody even challenged him. Like that's not on the goalie. That's on your defense and three players going and following the puck. Like, they didn't even, it was just a really bad play all the way around. And I think that play kind of summed up the night. Like it just wasn't their night. Old habits came out and they played down to their opponent. But tonight against the Florida Panthers, like they came out in the exact same kind of way. And I was like, oh my gosh, they might get run out of the gym here tonight. Especially with the way they played in the first 10 minutes. But for them to really weather the storm and get the first goal of the game, truly massive stuff. And for them to play from out front as opposed to from behind and really control things for portions of the game when they needed to was massive. Like the power play continuing on a heater. I think they're 3 for 4 on the power play tonight. And obviously not giving up any shorthanded goals any penalty or any power play goals to the other team. Like just the way the winning special teams was the difference tonight against the Panthers. And as long as we can keep that up, we're going to continue this heater. Just interesting to me, will this team at 5-on-5 be able to continue the limited production they've had when the power play eventually comes down to earth? Stay tuned.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Casper on that shorthanded goal against from the San Jose game. That effort right there. I think what really stuck out to me was that Todd McLellan, like he stuck with Casper in a top 6 role. And to me, that is something that like the old coaches like Blash and Newsy like had a very short leash for the rookies and the kids, and like something like that would have been a good enough excuse for them to bury him in the bottom 6 for 4 or 5 games. I think like that's just how it seemed to me with the old coaches, is that there was a very, very short leash for players with not a lot of NHL experience. But I thought it was really nice of Todd McLellan to, hey, stuff happens. Let's learn from it. Let's grow. I'm going to keep you there. I'm going to keep giving you a look. And he was able to contribute tonight too. And he's got a few goals in his last 3 or 4 games. So Marco Kasper seems to be figuring it out slowly but surely. And again tonight too, the special teams. I mean, granted, we got a little lucky because we ran into Bobrovsky during a stretch where he's not playing his greatest. He gave it up. Would he give up 4 goals on like 15 shots, something like that? That's obviously not the same Bob that won him a Stanley Cup just a few months ago. But nonetheless, you still got to execute and you still got to bury, right? So, we've talked about before how for special teams like power play and penalty kill, you're looking at like for a combined percentage of like 100 to 120. Like you're really looking for that. Like that's the sweet spot a lot of coaches are looking for. Tonight it was 175. You will never lose in the NHL if your special teams are a combined 175. 75 on the power play and 100% on the penalty kill. You'll win a lot of games like that. Plus Talbot too. We made it 2-1. Larks with that nice bang play from Kane on the power play, and then Talbot gave up a stinker. Probably should have had that one off of Evan Rodriguez. But after that, he really settled down. He really dialed it in, and he was able to have almost a 40 save night. So I'm still really pleased with the effort that Cam Talbot's given the team. And also, too, I am really liking Albert Johansson's game, too. It seems like he's starting to figure it out and turn a corner a little bit. And, all the best to Jeff Petrie. We don't wish him any harm or ill will with his body, of course, but this might have been the opportunity that Johansson has been looking for, and he seems to be running with it so far. I really like that pair of 77 and 20.
That pairing's been super underrated, and I believe both Swedish defensemen as well. An intriguing pairing, and obviously with Petrie being down, we kind of stumbled into it, but it takes a bold coach to play someone that's never had top 4 minutes in the NHL before. He's been a bottom pairing defenseman playing maybe 12, 13 minutes a night, and then all of a sudden he's up there playing top 4 minutes. Like that's a ballsy move, and I applaud Todd McLellan for doing that. This is what we've been calling for. Like, you might as well see what some of these young guys have to bring. Like Johansson is 24. I believe that's like prime for NHL players. Yes, we need to be playing these guys at the NHL level before they turn 24 so that when they, they're able to learn the style of the NHL game. The last goal that Talbot gave up against Rodriguez, I mean, I don't know how we can fault him for that. Like, Rodriguez literally put that so perfectly in the corner of the net that it came out directly the way it went back in. Like, you just tip your cap at that point. Like, there's just nothing you can do as a goalie defenseman. I mean, just an amazing pass as well from, I can't remember who the Panthers player was, but just insane vision. But like, also something I want to highlight is, you brought up the second pairing. Like, just defensively, they've been so much more solid and just impressive all the way around and dominant. And it's been a big step forward for this team.
And another thing too, it's been kind of a subject of discussion after the San Jose game. Todd McLellan, he gets up in front of the media and kind of rips Justin Hall a little bit, which is obviously something you would never, ever hear from Derek Lalonde. You'd go out there and you'd get your teeth kicked in and you'd be like, well, I liked our game. We had some looks and blah, blah, blah. It's unfortunate, blah, 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 blah. But, whatever. But this guy, he's been around the block. He's done this 100 million times. Like, he knows the buttons to press. He knows how to build those relationships. And you actually, I think, saw Justin Hall. I mean, he played tonight. I don't know how many minutes ice he got, but he was definitely less noticeable tonight than he was the game prior. And I think that speaks to how well the players are responding to his coaching style, right? Because, like, for a guy, I mean, this is a grown man, makes his livelihood playing hockey. You know, and he's a professional athlete. And for your coach that's been here for 3.5 weeks to go out and say that, like, that could rub you the wrong way. But I think it just speaks to how intently the group is listening to the new coach and how well they're buying in. And also, there was a moment tonight, and I think it was in the first period, where the Larkin line went out there and just had like kind of a average shift, like looked like they could have generated something, but couldn't execute, couldn't find the right lane or whatever. And the camera panned over to the bench, and Todd McLellan has a whiteboard. And he goes over to Larkson Raymond and he's like yapping at him and like drawing on the board. And it's like, when have you ever seen a Red Wings coach do that before? And like, it sounds so elementary and everything, but like, it just shows how much he's paying attention, and it shows how much he really values like coaching from the bench. Like, guys are always coming and going, right? And if you're watching, you know, most coaches probably pick 2 or 3 things that they're trying to watch and keep track of. And obviously he saw something that he felt like he needed to address and correct. And those players went out there. I mean, the Casper, Larkin, Raymond line, I mean, that was probably their best 5-on-5 line all night. And then the Kopp, Kane, and DeBrincat line continues to look pretty good too. But one player that's still continuing to frustrate me is Vladimir Tarasenko. Like, I know he buried a couple last game against the Sharks in the loss, but I know tonight, I mean, just like, there's one play, it was right before the penalty that Johansson took at like the end of the second period, I think. Puck goes into the corner. Tarasenko is the only guy in the camera going to retrieve it. There's a Florida Panther probably 4 or 5 strides away. And he gives some weak-ass backhand rim attempt, gets kept in, forces more possession time. Johansson takes a penalty. And right, I mean, and that's like the last 2 minutes of a period where it's got to be like, hey, I got to have a heightened sense of awareness here, situational awareness. And that continues to be a guy who I just I question his fit on the team. Like, I really do. And but again, if McLellan can find a way to get through to him, like he seemed to have gotten through to almost everyone in the top 6 and pretty much all of the defensemen, like it feels like Tarasenko's like that last one who's like hanging on to some bad habits. And I'm just waiting for those to die off, because if he can even return to form, half form, 2/3 form, like that's just going to benefit the team. I mean, he's got 5 goals right now, and we're over halfway through the year, or about halfway through. So but overall, I think the coaching change has been very, very helpful, very, very beneficial to where we're trending. And, you know, Steve Yzerman's got to be up in the press box saying, this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. This is what I saw right here. And they said it tonight on the broadcast. This is the next phase of the rebuild, bringing in a coach like that and maybe a more hard-nosed guy. And last 10 games or so, feels like we're turning a corner a little bit, which is obviously exciting us all.
You mentioned Tarasenko with 5 goals, and 2 were the other night against San Jose. I mean, Tarasenko breakout game, like it was he hasn't really done anything. And then, you know, first 2 goals of the night against San Jose, like, hey, what's up, bitches? I'm back. Like, I thought that was so funny. But yeah, they mentioned on the broadcast, they're like, you know, Tarasenko was known for his shot, and I really can't remember. Like, he's not getting many grade A chances. So, like, we'll see. I agree. His fit is questionable on this team. 2-year deal for him. Like, we'll see. You know, maybe that's something where, like, you know, Washington last year kind of or 2 years ago took a step back, traded away a couple pieces, even though they were on the outside looking in, reset, and then went for it. Granted, we don't have any massive, I would say 2 massive albatross contract much, but just addition by subtraction, bring somebody up and see what they've got in the same way. You know, we found Johansson, and we now, it looks like, have a viable second pairing that we can trust to play big minutes and not absolutely run Moe and whoever his partner is into the ground.
So I think they put the standings up at the end of the broadcast tonight. I think Detroit sits right now 3 points out of a playoff spot with the win. Looks like Ottawa and Washington went to overtime, and Ottawa was able to get a point. So Wings are in a 3-point hole with obviously they're on this road trip. Started out great tonight. We're in Tampa on Saturday. and then it's back-to-back in Dallas on Sunday. So I don't know how many Red Wings fans are going to be watching at 7 o'clock on Saturday with a big football game going on at 8 o'clock, but whatever, so back-to-back games there. And then the road trip closes out in Philly on Tuesday. And then that next week finishes up home against the Canadiens on Thursday and home against the Lightning on Saturday. So we see the Lightning twice in a week. Those are the next 5 games. If you can find a way to maybe get 6 points out of that 5, I think you're sitting in really good shape. You'd obviously like to handle the teams that are in your division and in your conference chasing. But I think they've really done a good job. They were in a big hole for most of the season, and the coaching change happened, and 8-2 stretch, we're able to dig ourselves out of the hole. Now they have a fighting chance. So obviously we're all really pleased with that, but it's not going to get any easier, right? And then obviously then the month ends pretty much with a home game against the Kings, and then it looks like they start their Alberta trip at the end of the month going out to Edmonton. So it's not going to get any easier, but it seems to me like we're shedding some bad habits in real time. The power play is electric, probably the best in the NHL right now. That first unit is just insane at the moment. And the second unit's chipping in with some timely goals too. And honestly, it seems like the penalty kill is getting a little bit better. Like, it's obviously going to take a while to move it up the NHL standings with how abysmal it was for 2.5 months. But looks to me like the penalty kill is getting better too. So if they can continue to get really good goaltending, maybe their power play maybe it won't stay at a 50% clip, but if it can stay, in the top 5, top 10 in the NHL, I think they're in really good shape. Obviously you got to go out there and do the work, but we were recording episodes a month ago where it's like, okay, well, we're going to be picking in the top 5. It's probably a good idea to just sell it. And so hockey's so up and down, up and down, up and down. But yeah, I think everyone's feeling good about where we're at right now. And I think the new coach is, it's obvious, night and day watching the team.
It's exciting. You mentioned the upcoming 5 games. That game against the Canadiens, 2 hottest teams in the NHL, both in the same division, up and coming teams. A really interesting matchup on 2 teams that didn't have ideal starts and are now trending in a different direction. But yeah, a lot of games where we got to see where this team goes. And I think that, maybe they aren't as good as the winning streak they've been on recently, but they weren't as bad as they played the first 2.5, 3 months of the year. So I think it's somewhere in between. But really excited and encouraged, like I'm sure everybody else is, on the current direction of this team.
Well, gang, it's a big weekend in Detroit. The Red Wings have back-to-backs on Saturday, Sunday, and obviously our beloved Lions trying to go on that Super Bowl run. That starts Saturday night in Detroit against the Washington Commanders. It's a great time to be a Detroit sports fan. If you were personally victimized by any audio issues tonight, we apologize from the bottom of our hearts. We are going to be better next time. We're going to skate laps and figure it out, I promise. But Red Wings are playing good. New coach is fitting well. The boys are hot. There's a lot of reasons to be happy right now, Hockey Town. So let's keep enjoying the ride. And hopefully we can start another winning streak. It may look so easy the first time. Let's just start another one. So road trip off to a great start. Quality win, quality opponent. We're going to keep following along the action. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Red Wing Diehards. We will see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Hockey Town Hangout on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.